Okay, this is 3-1C, which is talking about slope. And there are some key points I just want you to know quickly before we get started. And that's the difference between a positive, a negative, a zero, and an undefined slope. A positive slope is basically when the slope is slanted upward. Hence it's called positive, because positive usually means up. Negative means going down, so the slant is downward. A zero slope is a perfectly horizontal line. I'm going to write that also up here. It's a perfectly horizontal line. A good way to think about it is if you're walking on a sidewalk, it takes zero effort. You don't have to walk uphill to put in more effort. You don't have to put on brakes as if you're walking downhill. You just walk casually along the sidewalk. So a zero slope is a horizontal line. A vertical line is an undefined slope. And a good way to think about that is if you tried to walk on a wall, you wouldn't be able to do it because it's perfectly vertical. Gravity would not allow you to walk on a wall like Spider-Man. So it's undefined. Undefined means you don't understand it. You can't do it. There's no way to explain it. So you would not be able to walk on this wall. Therefore, it's an undefined slope. Okay? So these you're going to have to know throughout the lesson. I'm coming from your problem-solving practice in your um, workbook, and I'm going to start off with question number 1. Let me erase this. Okay, so for question number 1, it says, make sure I'm missing some markers here. Oops. Okay. Oops. I just kicked the board. There we go. For question number 1, it says, by the end of its first week, a movie had grossed $2.3 million. By the end of its sixth week, it had grossed $6.8 million. Graph the data with the week on the horizontal axis and the revenue on the vertical axis and draw a line through the points. Then find and interpret the slope of the line. So we can draw the graph later while we're working on it in class, but I want to go ahead and find the slope now. So this is question number 1. And if you look, it says at the end of the first week, so let's make a little table here. This will be weeks, and this will be how much money it made. At the end of the first week, it made 2.3 million. First week, it made 2.3 million. At the end of the sixth week, it made 6.8 million. Okay, so we're going to find the slope. And to find the slope is very easy. You do the change in the y's over the change in the x's. Now, you're probably wondering why I drew those triangles. In math, and this is just a little FYI for your information, this triangle is called delta. You've ever heard of the sorority, the deltas? They usually make that sign. It's a triangle for delta. And delta means change, okay? So this means the change in the y's versus the change in the x's. It's a very simple concept. Change, difference, they're all the same, just means you're going to subtract. So you look at the two y's. Now, one thing you have to do is you have to go in the same direction. So let's do the bigger number minus the smaller number. So 6.8 minus 2.3. I'm going to write it down here. 6.8 minus 2.3 is going to give me 4.5. And then the x's, 6 minus 1 gives me 5. Because remember, the first number always represents x, the second number always represents y. Okay, that never changes. So these are the y's, these are the x's, and you always go in the same order. If I did this one first for the y's, I have to do this one first for the x's. So the answer that you get is 4.5 over 5. So now, how would I write that as a slope? You don't really like to have decimals. Probably the easiest way to write that would be, let's multiply it by 10 to get rid of the decimal. And we would get 45 over 50, right? And we can simplify 45 over 50 to divide 45 by 5, and you get 9. 50 divided by 5, you get 10. So that's your final answer, 9 over 10. I'm just going to double check it in the back of the book. Yep, that's correct. And so if 9 over 10 is our final answer, it says to interpret the slope. Remember, interpret means to put in your own words. Well, the y's represent the money. So that's going to be $9 million every 10 weeks. Okay? So if we were to write that out, we're saying the slope is 9 over 10. And what does that mean? It means that $9 million was made every 10 weeks. Just that simple. $9 million was made every 10 weeks. How did I know? Because the 9 represents the money and the 10 represents the weeks. Okay? And we know that the money was in millions. So it's important that you remember what the Y and the X represent. Okay? Let's look at number 2. It says, after game 1, Felicia had scored 14 points. After game 5, she had scored a total of 82 points for the season. After game 10, she had scored 129 points. Graph the data with the game number on the horizontal axis and the number of points on the vertical axis. Connect the 2 points using 2 different line segments. So you're basically just going to graph those 3 points and connect the 3 dots. They're not going to make a straight line, but they want you to connect them anyway. So I'm just going to write down those 3 points for number 2. The first point is game 1, she scored 14 points. So it would be 114. Game 5, she scored 82 points. And game 10, she scored 129 points. Okay? Now, it says graph the data with the game number. Okay, so you're going to graph these 3 points plot these 3 points on the graph and then connect them. Now for number 3, it says to find the slope of each line segment of your graph from exercise 2 and interpret it. Which part of the graph shows the greater rate of change? So in other words, we're going to do one line at a time. So first we're going to do these 2 points. Okay? This is number 3. We're going to do 114 to 582. That's one line. Right? So the slope for this line we'll use M. M is representative of slope. Okay, that's something to remember. When you see the M, that's usually slope. So the slope is going to be the y's. Remember, do the y's first. I like to do the bigger number minus the smaller. It doesn't matter which y you pick. You could do 14 minus 82, or you could do 82 minus 14. I like to do the big number minus the small number. And for the x's, since I started over here for the y's, I have to start over here for the x's. So I'm going to do 5 minus 1. And what does that get me? 82 minus 14 is 82 minus 72 minus 4, 68. And this is 4. And that can be simplified. 68 over 4. 17. Okay, let me double check that. I think 68 divided by 4 is 17. You can check on your calculator while I check on mine. Yes, I was correct. Okay, so the slope is 17. That's only for one line. Now we got to do the other part, the second line, which would be 582, starting at 582 to 10, 129. Okay, so the slope equals, I'm going to start with this y, 129 minus 82, and that's going to give me 47. Then I'm going to do 10 minus 5, and that's going to give me 5. And that cannot be simplified anymore. So 47 over 5, that's the best you're going to get. If you want to change it to a whole number, 47 over 5 would be 9.4. Okay, and then it says which part of the graph shows the greater rate of change. So that's easy, right? Which one of these two is greater, 17 or 9.4? 17 is greater. Okay, so from game 1 to game 5, there was a greater increase in her points than from game 5 to game 10. Okay, let's go to number 4. It says the figure shows, well, actually, I'm thinking we can do 4, 5, and 6 in class. Yeah, we'll do those in class. We'll do 4, 5, and 6 in class.